What happens when a relationship gets questioned in public, and instead of brushing it off, someone responds with confidence that turns heads instantly? That's exactly what happened when L.B. Shaw addressed the noise surrounding his connection with comedian Luenell. The moment didn't just spark curiosity, it ignited a full-blown conversation online. People weren't just watching anymore, they were analyzing, debating, and trying to understand what was really going on behind the scenes. And right in the middle of it all was one statement that stood out above everything else. "It's a privilege to talk to you." That line alone shifted the energy of the entire situation, making it clear that this wasn't just about defending a relationship, it was about setting a tone. L.B. Shaw has always carried himself with a certain level of composure and confidence. From his music career to his personal journey, including serious health challenges that he's openly overcome, he's built a reputation as someone who doesn't easily fold under pressure. So when doubts started circulating about his relationship with Luenell, many expected a subtle response, or no response at all. But instead, what they got was something direct, something intentional. It wasn't loud or aggressive, but it was firm. He made it clear that the narrative being pushed by outsiders didn't define what he shared with Luenell. And in doing so, he reminded people that not every relationship needs public validation to be real. Now, Luenell is no stranger to attention herself. Known for her bold personality, sharp humor, and unapologetic presence, she's built a career on speaking her mind and owning who she is. That's part of what makes this situation so interesting, because you have two strong personalities, both used to being in the spotlight, navigating something that suddenly became a topic of public scrutiny. Some people questioned the authenticity of their connection, while others made assumptions based purely on appearances or expectations. And as usual, social media didn't hold back. Comments flooded in, opinions were thrown around freely, and the narrative quickly started to take on a life of its own. But here's where things took a turn. Instead of allowing those doubts to linger unanswered, L.B. Shaw stepped in with a statement that wasn't just defensive, it was elevating. By saying, "It's a privilege to talk to you," he flipped the entire conversation. Suddenly, it wasn't about proving critics wrong, it was about redefining the dynamic. That line carried respect, admiration, and a sense of value that cut through all the noise. It suggested that whatever connection they shared wasn't something casual or dismissible. It was something he recognized as meaningful, regardless of what outsiders believed. And that's what made people pause. Because in a culture where relationships are often reduced to headlines and speculation, hearing someone speak with that level of intention stood out. Some viewers saw it as a powerful show of respect, while others interpreted it as a subtle way of checking the negativity without feeding into it too much. Either way, it worked. The conversation began to shift from doubt to curiosity. People started asking different questions, not "is this real?" but "what do they see in each other?" and "why does this connection matter to them?" Of course, not everyone was convinced. There were still skeptics who felt like something was off, or who believed the entire situation was being blown out of proportion. That's the nature of public relationships. Everyone feels entitled to an opinion. But what stood out was how both L.B. Shaw and Luenell handled the attention. There was no frantic attempt to over-explain, no desperate need to win everyone over. Instead, there was a calm confidence, a sense that they understood something the public didn't, and maybe didn't need to. Moments like this highlight a bigger issue in today's social media culture. People often feel like they have the right to dissect, question, and even judge relationships they're not a part of. And while public figures are used to scrutiny, that doesn't mean every aspect of their personal lives is up for debate. What L.B. Shaw did in that moment was subtle but important. He drew a boundary without making it confrontational. He acknowledged the noise, but he didn't let it control the narrative. There's also something to be said about the power of language. A single sentence, "It's a privilege to talk to you," managed to carry more weight than a long explanation ever could. It wasn't just about defending Luenell, it was about uplifting her. And in doing so, he shifted the focus from doubt to appreciation. That kind of response doesn't just silence critics, it forces them to reconsider their perspective. As the conversation continues to unfold, one thing is clear. This moment wasn't just about a relationship, it was about respect, perception, and the way people choose when they're put under a microscope. L.B. Shaw could have taken a different route. He could have ignored the comments, or responded with frustration. But instead, he chose a response that was measured, confident, and impactful. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. Not every situation requires a loud reaction. Sometimes, the most powerful statement is the one that speaks with clarity and intention. Whether people believe in the relationship or not almost becomes secondary. What matters is how it's being handled. And in this case, it was handled in a way that made people stop, listen, and think. Because at the end of the day, when someone says it's a privilege just to have a conversation with you, that says more about how they see you than any rumor or opinion ever could. And in a world full of noise, that kind of clarity is hard to ignore.